G'day gymnastics skill seekers and welcome back to the training vlog. I'm currently in week 5 of phase 2 2023 of my gymnastics flexibility and strength training program. Over the last 4 weeks, I've given you an insight into the 4 separate days in my training program or the current training program. 3 of those days are a mix of gymnastics flexibility and gymnastics strength training. And the 4th day is a pure gymnastics flexibility session because that's my biggest limitation. It's the area that I need to work on if I want to continue to make progress towards my gymnastics goals. So flexibility, if only I'd done it sooner or started sooner. Anyway, on the days where I'm doing gymnastics flexibility and gymnastics strength, I haven't talked about the warm-up that I do. So typically I'd get into the gym and I'd go straight into the flexibility session without any warm-up. I'd let the flexibility be partly some of the warm-up. And then I'll do a specific gymnastics strength warm-up, and then I'll do my gymnastics strength training session. I haven't spoken about that warm-up, and there's a couple of reasons why. A, I wanted to do a specific blog about that warm-up process that I'm following, and B, it's the same warm-up on all 3 days. So I'm just repeating this same warm-up, okay? So it'll get a bit repetitive if I talked about the warm-up in all of the videos. But today I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing as part of that warm-up and share with you the ideas, the concepts behind this warm-up. It's something that my gymnastics strength coach has introduced me to. And yeah, I've been listening to Nich talk about it, and I like the idea behind it, but I also like to use it sort of as a template or as a guide. But anyway, let's step into it. I'll talk you through the gymnastics strength warm-up. So as I said, the warm-up's been inspired by international gymnastics coach Nich. He calls it his Daily Dozen. Okay, and the idea is that he's getting his athletes to repeat these 12 exercises or 12 specific exercises tailored to them as every day as their warm-up before they get into their gymnastics session. So it's 12 different exercises, and it's just one set of each. So we're not repeating 3 rounds or 4 rounds, okay? And initially when I saw this, I was like, wow, that's a lot of work. But normally I would give clients, my online clients, 3 rounds of maybe 3 exercises and maybe 1 flexibility drill. So when you think about it that way, if they're doing 3 rounds of 3 exercises and a flexibility drill, they're doing 12 exercises anyway. They're just repeating the same exercises instead of doing different exercises. It can take slightly longer depending on what the exercises are and how much equipment's needed and what the setup is. But in general, I'd get through this warm-up sort of 10, 15 minutes sort of tops. So Nich calls this the Daily Dozen, and he's got a specific template that he follows when he creates this warm-up for each one of his athletes. So I'm going to walk you through that template to start off with. So in the 12 exercises, number 1 is what he calls a cast to handstand exercise. So this is usually something that you do on like uneven bars, and it's usually like doing a swing or a kip and then pressing up into handstand on the uneven bars. So some sort of warm-up drill there. Might be jumping off a box, swinging, and then keeping up to the handstand. Number 2, he does a lever or a press to handstand. So it's like a front lever, a back lever, or it's some sort of press to handstand exercise depending on, where that athlete is. Maybe it's a press with back to wall. Maybe it's a incline box press. If you've got your press to handstand, maybe it's a press. Maybe it's an L-sit press. Maybe it's just an eccentric press, but you get the idea. There's a lot of different exercises we can choose from that we can use for a press to handstand as part of the warm-up. Then you'll do some sort of vertical pulling. So some variation of a pull-up or a chin-up will be number 3. Then you'll do a variation of different rope climbs. So it could be a straddle rope climb. It could be a pike rope climb. It could be any number, an inverted rope climb of different rope climbing exercises. Number 5 would be a handstand exercise. So it could just be a straight freestanding handstand. It could be a wall-facing handstand, again, depending on the level of the athlete and where they're at. Number 6 is a Corbett exercise, and this is snapping between the arch and the hollow body shape. So you might have 2 foam rollers and you're lying prone with 1 foam roller under your forearms and the other foam roller under the shins, and you'll be naturally in this sort of arch position because the feet are elevated and the arms are elevated. You go from that arch position snapping into a hollow body shape, and you're just moving between those snaps, which obviously help a gymnast with their different shapes and different positions that they need to perform on different apparatus or even on floor routines. Number 7 is an open shoulder exercise. So it's working on shoulder flexion strength. Now we could be doing some sort of banded exercise where we're pulling and working on shoulder flexion. We could be working on some sort of L-sit pressing movement, L-sit to stand. It's working strength in shoulder flexion. We could be working on prone lifts, lift-offs, which is shoulder flexion strength as well. So there's a lot of variety we can choose for strengthening shoulder flexion. Then he's working on closed shoulder exercise. Again, it's a strength exercise. It could be, again, a lever. It could be a banded pull down. It could be some sort of pull over exercise that we're working in that position. Number 9, he calls an upper back pulling exercise, which I just see as a horizontal pulling exercise. It could be a ring row. It could be a supine bar row. There's obviously lots of variety in there. You could even do front lever rows if you've got that strength. Then he goes into some sort of upper body pushing exercise. So this could be push-ups, this could be dips, this could be handstand push-ups, depending on, again, your level of strength in the upper body pushing. Number 11 he's got is an upper body weight transfer. So we could think of this as moving weight from one hand to the other hand. So we could be against the wall-facing handstand, lifting one arm off the ground, then putting the other arm on, lifting the other arm off the ground. We could be holding a plank position on the floor, having a slider under our feet and doing plank walks. There's lots of variety we could be doing there. A cartwheel, kicking over in a cartwheel, one hand, then the other hand, and the weight is transferring there. It could be a round off for his gymnastic athletes. So again, whatever you're working on, depending on the goals, what you'd put in there. The last one he's got, I think I see this as actually 4 exercises, but he talks about it in terms of, shoulder elevation, depression, retraction, and protraction. So it's just working on strengthening the shoulders in all of those ranges of motion. He's got it down as 1. You could be doing elevation, a hanging, active, and passive, but really that's just training or strengthening shoulder depression. We could be doing handstand shrugs. We could be doing scapular push-ups. We could be doing scapular rows. There's lots of variation we could think about that it's going to train those different positions in the shoulder. Now, although this is a great template, some of this is not specific to my goals and what I want to do, but we can certainly take elements from this template and use it to our advantage. What I really like about this daily dozen idea is, if you're like me, sometimes you might skip some of the fundamentals, some of the basics that we need to be working on. We always hear gymnastics coaches or strength coaches or different coaches saying, stick with the basics, work all the foundations movements. But where do you typically put that into your training session? It usually comes at the end of the session. So, okay, we're going to go and do all the fun stuff. We're going to do the handstands, we're going to do the muscle-ups, we're going to do the levers. And then at the end of that, I'll put in, my hangs, my scapular hangs, or I might put in, scapular push-ups, or you might put in, body weight push-ups. And typically, you might skip that. I'm going to go and do the fun stuff, and then it gets to the boring stuff, or I'm running out of time, I've got to get to work, or something's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And you'll just, okay, I'm just going to skip that for today. And you miss some of that foundation stuff, the stuff that we should be working on, the stuff that's got the best carryover to help us improve in the more advanced gymnastic skills. So with this daily dozen, we can start to think about, well, what are some of those foundations movements that I could be working on that are going to translate into the skills that I want to develop here? Now, you might think, well, only one set. I'm only doing one set of, let's say, scapular dips. I'm only doing one set. But if you're training gymnastic strength 3 times a week and you're doing the same warm-up, that's the equivalent of doing 3 sets of dip shrugs. So that's the same as having it in the training program, but I'm just spreading it out over the week instead of trying to accumulate it all in one session. So it's a great way for us to get in the conditioning that the body needs to hopefully decrease the chance of injury and increase our gymnastics performance. So that's what I really like about this daily dozen. I've been using it now for probably 3 phases, the last 3 phases of my training. And yeah, I think it's been working quite well. Definitely warm after I do it. And it's good to be able to be including so many of these sort of foundations movements. Okay, so what does my current warm-up look like? What I'm doing right now is very similar to what I've done in previous phases, and it'll be very similar moving forward. But all of these 12 exercises are somehow linked to my gymnastics goals and what I'm aiming to achieve. There are also obviously a lot of the foundations, a lot of the basics that we need to be working on to keep ourselves strong, stable, injury-free, hopefully, fingers crossed. So my daily dozen starts with hollow body holds. So I'm just spending 60 seconds in this nice hollow body dish shape. We see this shape in a lot of our gymnastics movements. So it's just a good opportunity for me to keep this shape nice and strong and come back to some of the foundation movements. From there, I'm moving into my vertical pull. So in this phase, it's a mixed grip pull up. So I'm doing 6 reps with a pronated grip on the right side and a supinated grip on the left, and then I'm swapping that over and doing 6 reps on the other side. I don't have any pull-ups, specific pull-ups in my program, so it's just great to have, some pull-ups in the warm-up to keep that bent arm pulling strength going with this. But I am obviously doing a lot of muscle-ups in my current phase, so there's a lot of false grip pull-ups happening with that. Okay, number 3 in my warm-up is a supine row, bar and rack. So this is a horizontal pulling exercise or an upper back exercise. I'm just doing 12 repetitions here. I've got my feet slightly elevated. It's just where I've got my squat rack and the position that sort of helps me get in a good rowing position here with the bar nice and low and feeling that, those muscles are working in that horizontal pull. From there, I'm moving into a handstand, coming down to the straddle L-sit. So just kicking up to handstand, holding that straight handstand, opening up and coming through that eccentric press, and then coming all the way down into the best straddle L-sit I can do, coming into it from this angle. My straddle L-sit definitely needs some work, and this comes back to my pancake flexibility. As I start to increase my pancake flexibility, it's going to carry over to my straddle L-sit, but I'm just doing my best with what I can right now. Obviously, this is going to help us work to the concentric of this, which is the store to press, which is one of my goals that I want to work towards. So I'm doing 3 reps of this. 3 times kick up to handstand, control the eccentric, kick up to handstand, control the eccentric. From here, I'm moving into a horizontal pushing exercise. At the moment, it's diamond push-ups, and I'm just doing 20 repetitions of diamond push-ups. So again, just some bent arm pushing strength. I don't have a lot of bent arm pushing strength in the program. I've obviously got the eccentric handstand push-ups that I'm working on. There's obviously some dips in some of the muscle-ups that I've got on the rings, but other than that, this is a good opportunity to be doing some horizontal pressing in the warm-up. From here, I'm moving into just like a tuck handstand. So kicking up on the P-bars and then transitioning from the straight handstand down into the tuck and just holding 30 seconds here. In past phases, I was moving from that tuck handstand into the tuck planche. And obviously now I'm doing a lot of press work, press to handstand. So, the tuck handstand is a good one to keep that shoulder strength going. Nice open shoulders, strong position, and just a good way to warm up the handstand. The next one I'm doing is supported shrugs. So I'm just doing this on the P-bars, I'm on dip bars. I'm actually doing these weighted now. I've got 20 kilos attached, and I'm just doing, a lot of strong shoulder depression work as I'm working on those dip shrugs. It's 15 repetitions that we're after. From there, I'm going to hanging shrugs, okay, doing these weighted as well, and just working on getting those shoulders working in that shoulder flex position. So before it's in the dip, it's down here, it's nearly a shoulder extended position, and then up here now it's a shoulder flex position, both a shoulder depression, but just working it from a different angle. Obviously, that's got great carryover into all of the exercises where we're keeping the shoulders depressed, or we need strong shoulder depression strength. We're thinking muscle-ups, we're thinking pull-ups, we're thinking even planche work. We want to keep the shoulders depressed. From there, I'm working into scapular push-ups. So again, this horizontal pressing, but it's straight arm pressing and just working on retraction and protraction of the scapula. I like to sort of do this roll. I find it really good just to be able to roll the shoulders and just get them warm. This used to have a lot of sort of creaks and crunches in it back in the day, but I don't have that anymore. And I think that's because of all the scapular work that I have been doing there, just making those shoulders a lot stronger, taking all the cobwebs out of the shoulder capsule maybe. From there, we've just got scapular rows. So again, a horizontal pulling exercise, straight arm pulling, again, shoulder retraction to protraction, 15 repetitions of these ones. And then I'm working into an inverted shrug. So on the rings now, working on strengthening shoulder elevation. So shrugging the shoulders up in this one. All of these scapular exercises are 15 repetitions. And yeah, these are all foundation movements, all sort of stuff that's the basics that we need to be good at. And a lot of gymnastics is upper body work, and we want to have strong and stable shoulders. So working depression, retraction, protraction, and retraction are all essential to everything that we do. So like I said, my shoulders used to be a bit crunchy there, but I think because of all this work, it's really helped to improve the health and the strength of my shoulders. The last one, number 12, lucky number 12, is just working again on that straddle L sit. It's a little bit better when I set up this way. So when I move from this sort of seated position and I work on lifting the bent knees, so I'm keeping the knees bent, lifting the feet off the ground, that core compression in there. And then once I've lifted the knees, then trying to straighten the legs and hold that position. A little bit more respectable than currently my handstand to straddle L sit position. But like I said, it's just going to come with time and with practice. And that's the 12 exercises. So yeah, it probably takes me a good sort of 10, 12 minutes to work through each of those exercises. A little bit longer because I'm adding weight maybe to, the scapular pull-ups and the dip shrugs. And yeah, it's just a good way for me to switch on the muscles and prepare for the workout each day. There's definitely carryover from some of these exercises into the specific session for the day, and others maybe not, but it's just this diversity of movement that we're getting into the training program, and the fact that I'm doing all of these exercises 3 times a week. Yes, it's only one set, but the accumulation, the volume, the repetition of this being repeated multiple times just allows me to get better at it and get stronger at it. This is a 6-week phase. All my phases are 6 weeks. And then after 6 weeks, this will change. This warm-up will be different. But it'll be based on the similar sort of movements: horizontal pull, horizontal press, vertical pull, vertical press, all of the scapular work, some handstand work, so some core compression work, whatever's in there that's going to be useful, or maybe an area that I need more work on that's going to be useful to help me progress towards those gymnastics goals. So take it or leave it. It's up to you. Maybe it's something you want to experiment. Where are you at with your current gymnastics goals? Where are some areas that are maybe limiting you? What are some of the basics or the foundations that you need to work on? Select 12 exercises, put that in your warm-up, okay? Make it repetitions that you can do, sets and reps you can do. Work through that every day that you're in the gym working on your gymnastic strength stuff. Nich Roddick is the name of the gymnastics coach who, shared this information. I've only managed to find one decent YouTube video where he talks about it, and it's with the guy from Shift Gymnastics, where they're just running through program design. And close to the end of that, I'll put a link in the bio. Close to the end of that, he starts to talk about this Daily Doze, and that's where I pulled his sort of template from. It was my gymnastics coach who introduced me to this. So, it's been an interesting warm-up for me. It's been a very different sort of warm-up for me. I've not done this sort of process before, but I'm really enjoying it, and that's why I thought I'd share it with you. So hope you found it useful. Any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching, and next week I'll return in week 6 of my current phase, and we'll have a look at the progress that I've made from week 1 to week 6. Until then, happy gymnastics, flexibility, and strength training.